Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast, and it all comes down to this. If you're with us for the very first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're of course on X, on Instagram, on Facebook, and we're on Blue Sky too. I'm joined by a top-tier panel to look ahead to what is being framed, described as the defining match of Tottenham Hotspur's season for more than one way, potentially. And of course, for Tottenham, what is at stake is a semi-final setting up against either Lazio or Bodo Glimt if Tottenham can get past Eintracht Frankfurt. Thank you ever so much for joining us. I'm joined by Blues' very own, one of our own, who I've tried to protect for a lot of the season because of what this club is doing to us. Antony Costa is back on the show, and you can behave yourself. If I can unmute him, we're fighting for the mute button. Let's unmute Ant.
Oh, I'm here. I am going to behave myself. I think the other week I was 20 months of frustration just come pouring out. So I apologise if I went on a famous Ant rant. So it's nice to be on the panel with Talia. Been a long time, mate. I think the last time I see you, we got beat by Arsenal, which was nice. Yeah, that was really good.
Change.
Yeah, always a lovely pleasure to see you after an Arsenal defeat. And Billie T, man, nice to finally meet you, mate. Big fan from afar. I've admired you, mate.
I'm a big fan.
What you're doing for a change for Spurs is fantastic. So I love it.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much. That means a lot coming from you.
No, honestly, top man. But yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be great, isn't it?
Hopefully. Fantastic. Yeah. Can't wait. Can't wait. Back on the show. That's what I've also tried to protect this season. And she's told me I don't need protecting. I'm fine. So I've got to bring her back on maybe for even more glory or misery. Talia Coren's back on the panel. You know, with Tal, she will always try and tell it as it is. Tal, lovely to have you here. We'll get you to unmute as things. Are you okay outside of life of Spurs?
Yeah, surviving, not thriving, but we go and everything's all right. I'm glad I'm back. And with this very highly esteemed panel. I'm so boring compared to you lot. But yeah, we're going to chat all things awfulness, I'm sure. And we'll try and find a positive spin.
We are.
But let's see.
We will try, of course. That we are building up to what, of course, is Spurs' biggest game of the season. And I know there's lots of jokes and fun on X with regards to even Billie's consumption of Spurs' games at the moment, depending on how quickly he can get the TV on before we can concede a goal, which is currently at the moment a new running quiz with Spurs fans. How quickly can you get the game on before we go and concede? I mean, what can I say? Billie T's back in the house. Bill, lovely to have you here.
Thank you very much, man. Lovely to be back.
Pleasure, mate. Pleasure. It's going to be an interesting next few days, right? Fair to say?
Yeah, man. This is it, right? This feels like the last hurrah. This is everything. Can I just say, man, what an excellent job you did on Sky Sports as well. I feel like I'm talking to lots of famous people today.
Honestly. You know what? The thing is, the thing about these, obviously speaking to the media and stuff like that, I mean, the great thing now is that, hopefully whatever I do out there is kind of a symbolization of how I feel. And I think the reality is that we've come to a point now where for many, there is just misery wherever you look with Tottenham. And we don't want it to be like that. I did actually make the point actually on Sky that the whole purpose of kind of Tottenham football in general is to kind of give you an escapism of, life, what's going on in your personal life, with the shit that goes on in your personal life. Football is meant to be an escapism where you get to have something to enjoy. And the problem with Tottenham is that I don't think we've been able to enjoy it for quite a considerable amount of time. And look, I mean, the thing is, we would love to come on the show and be really optimistic and, try and give everybody a really big rallying cry that we've got a genuine real opportunity to progress, of course, for Thursday's game in Frankfurt, which I know for many out there looks very hard to even try and comprehend how we're going to do that. But the reality is we're at a situation where the speculation is continuing to swirl around and Postecoglou's future, of course, on the back of that 17th Premier League defeat of the season to Wolves. This does represent the last chance to really make something of the season. There are multiple reports out there, as everybody knows, that even if Spurs were to win the Europa League, and Postecoglou would maybe still face the sack from what reports are leading to suggest. David Ornstein from The Athletic has suggested that Tottenham Hotspur's squad is one in which insiders feel is much better than the results and performances feel. and Postecoglou's not getting the best out of this group, which is why that speculation does loom large ahead of what for Tottenham is their biggest game of the season. I don't want to go too far back into Wolves because we are past that. But I mean, I'll start with you, Anne. Look, as we know, it was our 10th defeat on the road out of 16 domestic away games. And we've now got to go to Frankfurt on Thursday where, look, many have struggled to actually do fairly well there across the season. Yes, I've had a little bit of a dip recently, but if Tottenham are to reach the semi-finals, they've got to handle quite a hostile atmosphere away from home. At a place where, let's be honest about it, we're going to need our leaders, and our leaders at the moment look quite rudderless. I mean, silly question, how are you feeling going into Thursday?
Well, after taking, I think, 9 points this year in 2025, I think, on the road, I don't feel that confident, I'll be honest with you, mate. I hate feeling like this. I think if we was at our ground on Thursday, the optimism might be a little bit better from my side, but I think the way we've been on the road this season, I don't think it's been great, as we all know. As I said, 9 points, I think, we've taken on the road this year alone. It's not good enough for Tottenham standards, and I think if it is to be and we get through, unbelievable. But I can't see anything other than a loss, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know a lot of the guests that come on here would like to spread optimism, hope, and belief that we are going to be able to find a way.
Truthful, mate.
Yeah,
You've got to be truthful. Let's call it straight. Do you know what I mean? We've got to be truthful. I'm not going to sit here and go, rainbows and skittles, and it's going to be unicorns flying about. But we haven't been playing well. The other day, as we made a joke of it, I turned the game on. I went for a quick wee, come back with 1-0 down. I'm like, what is going on? And then we just capitulated. And I think if that happens on Thursday, which it could well be with a hostile crowd, because they came to us last week, they were non-stop. We were terrible atmosphere-wise. We were terrible. Okay, we had a little bit 10 minutes of the second half when Berval hit the crossbar, and we were unlucky. I get that, but we didn't take our chances when it was needed. And I think over there on Thursday, it's going to be hostile. They're going to want it more. And I think that it's going to be, unfortunately, not Tottenham's night.
Well, I hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong.
I hope you know yourself that you hope you're wrong. But the thing about it is, about wanting it more. That's been one thing, Tal, that I think when we look at the overall issues at Tottenham, yes, there's a heavy spotlight with regards to the owner, Daniel Levy. There's a heavy spotlight when it comes to the head coach in Ange Postecoglou. It does feel like in these situations where teams invariably go through the form that they're going on, that the players normally get away scot-free. And I think that can't happen because we've seen it under so many different managers where the players almost give up and are waiting for the manager to take the bullet. And we all know that old age that you can't sack or dismiss 15, 20, 25 players. But how much do they have a responsibility for the shirt, for the fans, for the club, to go and put a performance on there, because we've not seen these players turn up enough in the big games?
I mean, they have, almost full responsibility in some way. It's like, yeah, of course, you can only do what you're able to do in the realms of the manager and the coaching and the style of play and stuff like that. But they're the ones that are wearing the shirt. They have every single one of us, fans, staff, whoever they are that's associated with the club, on their backs. They're the only people that can put in a performance. We'd all love to do that, but it's their job to go out and do that. And, if you're not good enough, cool, that's fine. If you play with everything you've got and there is heart and soul on that field and you generally cannot match your opposition, you clap them off because you're like, fair play, you tried. We don't see that anymore. That's what is missing from us. There's no passion, there's no will, there's no effort. It's so easy for those guys to just switch off. Something goes wrong and we're all sat there like, come on, you try and galvanize the team and it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. And that is so frustrating as a supporter because, these guys, unfortunately, are the only 11 plus subs that can actually turn the thing around. And that is high pressure, but that's the job. And, when you're in a, such an important game like this, you have to kind of carry that responsibility and do it justice. And if you don't, you're going to face a wrath from everyone and anyone off the back of that. And that is, part and parcel of the game, unfortunately. And I think we all just want to see passion, effort, give it a go. you know, I think we all feel pessimistic based on the stuff that we've seen in recent weeks, and it doesn't feel fluid, and we're making so many individual errors, and, you know, there's so many questions, and that's fine. But, you know, you got one chance at this. It's half time. Yes, we probably should have scored more goals and things could have gone our way slightly more, but you've got to go out and really want it. And that's the thing that I think a lot of us are struggling. It's not that we're not optimistic or any of these things. It's based on what we've actually seen over the past few weeks. Do they have it in them to show up in that environment, in a current form, in an away ground that will be, you know, hostile as anything? And that's what we want. You know, I'm desperate for us to win and do a good job and progress, but I kind of feel like I can't be excited for that because I'm so pessimistic with where we are. And that's a hard place to be, because it's like stuck between a rock and a hard place, isn't it? It's head over heart, or whatever it is. It's tough, but look, I'm hoping for some positive, and, you know, regardless of how anyone feels about the club, managers, owners, you know, we all back the team and want us to progress and do well. So I hope Thursday can at least give us another shot at that and unite us. But will it happen? I don't know. I'm not super sure it will. But look, all they've got to do is show up, and let's hope for the best.
I think that's the key, isn't it, Tal, as you say there, because when you look at the two sides, as you've touched upon there, Bill, the reality is that when you compare them both in terms of squads, Tottenham really should have the beating of Frankfurt when you look at the quality of the two squads. And look, don't get me wrong, Frankfurt got some really good players in there, don't get me away from that. But, you know, a Tottenham team that is in full confidence, in full form, should brush them aside. But, you know, we have got these real concerns when it comes to our away form in general. You know, we've lost 10 of 16 away games. When you look at domestic-wise, only Leicester and relegated Southampton have lost more. And even our home form, you know, I think we lost 7 of our last 10 as well. So it's really, really tough, you know, to try and make a case where there's a belief to go through. And I think the most concerning thing would have been on the back of the result against Wolves is that, you know, you've got players that are meant to be some of the leaders in this team, like Vicario, like Christian Romero, making key fundamental individual errors. And you put Bergvall into that occasion, who's been a very, very young kid, probably one of the shining lights of the season. And I thought what kind of sums Tottenham up from a lack of leadership perspective is they roll out 19-year-old Matisse Tell to do the club interview. I mean, this guy's on loan. He's not even, you know, a player that's actually a Tottenham player. I mean, it just kind of sums up really just the lack of direction this club is at right now, Bill, going into what we know is going to be the biggest game of Spurs this season, and obviously the biggest game for Ange Postecoglou's tenure at the club.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of interesting things to note on that. Firstly, I think, you know, the character of this group of players is obviously questionable. And I think when you look at that, if you think back to that Galatasaray and Rangers games where they were up against a really fierce atmosphere, we crumbled in both of those games. We were very lucky to get a draw at Rangers, really, and we got smashed by Galatasaray. So Frankfurt will be with that kind of hostile atmosphere as well. And I really, you know, I think man for man, we're a much better side than them. I know they're third in the Bundesliga, but, you know, the quality difference between us should, technically individual from individual, you know, we should be beating them. And we showed that in glimpses last week when we were battering them for like 10, 15 minutes in the second half. But the thing that makes me really question is the character of these players. And like, are they going to be able to step up? Because we've not seen it all season. We've not seen them step up in an away game like that, in this kind of atmosphere when the backs are really against the wall. And then my bigger thought process is this is a completely different set of players that we've seen, you know, since the players that we've attribute these same things to recently. Like we always say, Tottenham, they crumble under pressure. There's no characters, there's no leaders. But this is a completely new set of players. So then I think it has to question, well, what is the common denominator here? And the common denominator here is that we've still got the same ownership. And it's the same culture that the same ownership seem to perpetuate onto the players, that maybe this is the culture, maybe it's the standards of the club that is the problem, because, you know, other than Davis and Son, this is a completely new squad of players, but we're seeing the same things happen year after year after year, you know, the leadership and the quality and the standing up in these kind of environments. So I think the culture that is set by the board really has to be questioned at this point.
And just on that point about the culture and everything about the board, Bill, I know it's worth also bringing the next point out. I know Change for Spurs are arranging the next forthcoming protest. Do you want to give some information on that and how viewers and listeners and, of course, fans of the football club can get involved? Because it just feels at the moment that this should, at any point this season, at any points you've seen, if you need any sense of a reason as to why there needs to be a change at this football club, look at how our season's unfolding and what there needs to be, as I said on Sky, a real emphasis on the fact that this isn't getting any better under this current ownership. And, I mentioned that point that when you compare the latter days to Newcastle under Mike Ashley, they were also sleepwalking themselves into a relegation battle. And you look at Tottenham this season, Spurs are very, very lucky that there are 3 worse teams than them in the Premier League, because they would have been sucked into a relegation battle. When you look at our form, Ange Postecoglou, which is crazy saying this, he's won 25% of his points as Spurs manager in those opening 10 matches. The first 10 matches, we had 26 points. The next 60 matches, we've only amassed 77 points. So I don't want to go too far away from the point, Bill, but I'll let you take the stage in regards to how fans can get involved and can attend that next protest coming up and the details for it.
Yeah, and just going back on that, what you were just saying there, West Ham were relegated with 42 points not that long ago. We've got 37 at the moment, and I struggle to see whether, if we continue the way that are we going to amass 5 more points? I wouldn't be so sure. So, we're lucky this season that there are 3 worse teams than us, and this is just, the symptom of a really poor season. And there's probably the season that we've been dreading for a while as fans, because usually with Tottenham, like, our base level of a bad season was like finishing 8th under this ownership, in recent times. Having Harry Kane and Son firing usually meant that we could get up around the top 6, top 4, something like that. But this season, like, all of our worst fears are basically being realised, and the standards have sort of slipped. And I think, what really sells it for me is we're 2 days away from our biggest game of the season. Yet today, all of the articles are about who's our next manager going to be. There's nothing about, how much we want to win this game, or, what the game means to us. If you look at the Real Madrid media coming out right now, for example, I know that's taken an example of the very top teams. But all the culture and all the media around them now is how they're going to turn it around tomorrow and stuff like this. At Tottenham, it's about who's the next manager going to be in a couple of days' time. I think that's a disgrace. This is a do or die match. It doesn't seem like a do or die match for the club at all. And there's no culture of winning or no culture of anything like that. So if, fans do feel the same way, and thank you very much for those that have supported us so far, we will be protesting at the Crystal Palace game. The only thing is with this game is its potential to change. Fingers crossed we win on Thursday, which we all hope that we do. The protest will go ahead either way, but the game might change. So just keep an eye on that. But we will be marching. We also have a couple, because every time that we do it, we try and keep things different a little bit. So there will be a little bit of an in-stadium thing as well. But keep an eye on social media for that. But I just want to say a huge thank you to this show, and you in particular when you were talking about it on Sky Sports, and the messages from everyone. It's really, really appreciated from everyone that changed for Spurs.
Pleasure, Bill. Not a problem. You brought up saying there that, look, in normal circumstances, we would, of course, not want to discuss, because we are building up to one of Spurs' biggest games of the season. But as you touched upon there, that already the build-up in the media coverage has been about the fact that Spurs have been heavily linked with a number of different managers. Should it not work in Ange Postecoglou's favour on Thursday, and in the event that even Tottenham do win the Europa League, there is still suggestions that Ange Postecoglou's job is very much in doubt, and Tottenham may look to change him between now and the end of the season, and who knows if he even gets that far. So we'll just bring you up to date on what the latest news we understand to be if Tottenham are set to go through yet another managerial search as we continue the 18-month rinse and repeat cycle. I think we're at a point now where we would be on the 7th manager that would be in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium taking the club over, and that's without me actually counting caretakers in there. I'm not counting Stellini. I'm not counting Ryan Mason. I wouldn't be counting Matty Wells if Matty Wells gets the gig coming up. It just shows you really just how dysfunctional the club is in general. So the latest news on the managerial front is that Andoni Iraola is moving towards committing his future at Bournemouth, despite being a candidate for clubs such as Tottenham in the event of a change of manager. Now, Iraola has 1 full season left on his current deal at the Vitality Stadium, and work is underway to try and ensure he remains a Bournemouth manager. It's also indicating that the Basque coach is inclined to stay beyond his current situation there with regards to that contract, with the club firmly in contention to secure some form of European football for the 25-26 season. As I mentioned, they are trying to convince him to sign a new deal. It is believed for Tottenham on that shortlist as well does contain Thomas Frank of Brentford. He's high up on Tottenham's list at the moment with regards to someone they would like to talk to if and when this managerial vacancy does become available. We also are hearing reports that Fulham are braced for a battle to keep Marco Silva as their manager. Silva's stock is higher after leading the Cottagers to the FA Cup quarter-finals, and is also in contention for a European place this season. It's understood some outlets are actually labelling now to be the front runner for Tottenham. However, Fulham Vice Chairman Tony Khan wants Marco Silva to stay at the club forever. He says, we're having a tremendous season. We've got a great team, a great coach with Marco, and a great squad. We have so many great players, a great changing room. These are really great people on and off the pitch, and we have the best fans. He said Marco is a huge asset to our football club. He's such an amazing person. He's so important to the football club. We have a great relationship like father and son. We really love Marco. We want him to stay at Fulham forever. He's a huge part of what we have got going for us here, and he's a great, great man. So Fulham will do, it sounds, everything in their power to make sure Marco Silva will remain their coach. Finally, on that shortlist is led to believe Crystal Palace boss Oliver Glasner. There are reports suggesting at the moment that Glasner is stalling over a new deal at Crystal Palace amid interest from Tottenham. This is a guy that has called for Palace, has got them to safety on a number of occasions now, twice in the Premier League. He also took them on, of course, that FA Cup journey as well. David Ornstein has commented and said, if Tottenham are to make that alteration, names such as Iraola, who we've spoken about, one of them, Silva, Glasner, is impressing much for Tottenham, and these will be in the vacancy because Tottenham is still an attractive football club. Does feel bizarre, as you said there, Bill, that we're talking about managers on the eve of what is Tottenham's biggest game of the season. I mean, maybe it's not the right time to bring it up, given the nature of the game, but I mean, it is bizarre, isn't it? You know, we talk about, we're sitting here, as Bill said, the media feeding out to us news about upcoming managers when we've got the biggest game of the season on Thursday. I mean, is that
crazy,
right?
Isn't it?
Madness, right?
It's crazy. Rick, I want to ask you, bud, out of them sort of 4 or 5, who would you take? Seriously, seriously. I mean, me and you have said Iraola all along, haven't we?
Yeah.
But,
I mean, we say. I mean, I do like Iraola's style of football. I think, you know, what we've got to be, I suppose, a bit cautious about, which we might not have the problem for next season with Iraola, is about how he would manage a squad twice in a week, because obviously Bournemouth have had a number of injuries. I just think now, as I've said to you, Ant, so many times when it comes to the Tottenham job, what's quite fascinating, Ant, and we've seen
Poison chalice.
We've seen it so many times now that actually every time we have this rinse and repeat cycle, the quality of managers is going down. The pool of them is getting smaller and smaller. And as I said on Sky, and as I've said on here so many times, that I just feel under Daniel Levy, this job is no longer actually in any kind of a way a winnable task. You called it a poison chalice. I just think you come in with your hands tied behind your back before you start. You don't really get the players you want. And I just question whether it is such an attractive job anymore. And I know they've got the stadium, they've got the training ground there. I mean, is it attractive?
Sad, isn't it? It's sad. It's really sad. Like, you look.
Is it still an attractive job, Ant? Do you think it's still an attractive job?
Unfortunately, I hate to say, I don't think it is anymore. I really don't, and it pains me to say that, because you look at Bournemouth now. You know, Iraola, you were saying he wants to commit, etc. And why not? Good luck to him. Good luck to him. He's building something there, and you can see the fans have bought into him. The board, the players, his backroom staff, all fantastic. And good luck to them. You know, if they get into Europe, or they scrape through to Europe, or they have a good season next season, I wish them all the best. Us lot, we should have been much more advanced than Bournemouth. You know, without sounding disrespectful, with the stadium, I keep getting told, there's training facilities, I keep getting told this and that. Nothing's progressed. This team have regressed from last season, and unfortunately that's down to management and the staff, and it's true, and the results have shown that it is a results business. So I think out of them guys, I would take either of them. You can't be fussy anymore. I think it's sort of desperate times now. I like what Glasner's done at Crystal Palace. I like the way they play. I think he's got them playing really well, really good football. And I think with a better squad, as Bill alluded to before, we have got better players, man for man. But, you know, we have got good players, but they need to be coached properly, I think. And, you know, we are going to lose games. I always say this, we're Tottenham Hotspur. We're never going to go a season unbeaten. We are going to have dips and highs and etc. But that's the beauty about being a Spurs fan. It's never easy. But I think this season, there's no positives that I can take. I've not enjoyed one single match this season, and I've been a fair few times. I've seen the change for Tottenham marches. I've seen it all. I've seen I've seen everything. I've seen so many games this season, and I just haven't been. I haven't been impressed. And I've left at like 82, 83 minutes. Never would I do that back in the day under Poch, even under Conte. I never left. I never left. I was there till the end, 92, 95 minutes. I leave at like 10 minutes before the game because I'm bored.
Yeah.
And I hate saying that. And I think any manager that comes in, I want to get excited, but I just don't think it's an attractive job anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be a cop out to the answer with the question you put to me. Look, I do think with regards to Ange that, I think those specific managers that have been mentioned, I think all of them would give Tottenham a certain degree of an uplift for a certain period. But I just feel under those names that have been mentioned that whoever comes in, you'll get an initial bounce of the players, but the reality is that you're never going to really truly get what you want coming into this job. And I think it goes back to that point, Tal. I mean, look, bless you. You've been on here for like 6, 7, 8 years back in the audio days of us. I mean, this is probably for you this must be the 7th, 8th manager that you've commented on since being on this podcast. I mean, does it get to a point where, Tal, it just gets so uninspiring, the thought of having to go through yet another managerial search? I think Postecoglou's one took 72 days. In between it, you had links to Gattuso. There was Slot in there. I mean, the thought of going through this all again, which is why I know so many people wanted it to work so much under Ange, because they're just thinking, can't go through this yet again. But the problem is we're at a point now where I think we all do feel, majority of Spurs fans out there, can't say everyone, I think there's a general consensus that Ange isn't the right man to take the club forward. And it's just that kind of reality that we're going to have to go through this yet again. And it's the same people, I've got to say, Tal, it's the same people that got to pick the next one. So what chance have we got?
The thing is, it's boring now. Like, it's boring because the cycle just repeats itself. And you get to a certain point and then you lose hope and then it happens again. And that is so draining as a fan. And it's boring for us, for people listening, for all of us, because we're not progressing with that conversation. It's like, over the last God knows how many years, I feel like I've had the same conversation about multiple different managers, and we're going to be having the same one again probably next year and the year after. And you kind of don't see a way out of that. And that's pretty difficult. I think everyone at this point, whether you like him or not, you can't really argue about, his inability to be tactically flexible and all the defensive vulnerabilities and stuff that we have. That's not inspiring. It's not working. He is not the right man to take us forward. Yes, we've had an unlucky season in loads of ways, but, he has lost the fans, probably the players and all of those things. But when you think about what's next, it's like, well, as you guys just said, it'll be surprised if anyone wants it, really. It's not a job that you'd want. And for me, it's going to be another summer where we end up with the 5th or 6th choice candidate. And it is just going to be another dry thing. And you think you can't even get excited for next season because we probably won't be in Europe. We're going to have God knows who is manager. And you just think, well, what's exciting about that? Why should I go and spend another 1,500 quid on my season ticket this year? I'm like, I'd flush it down the toilet. I got that money and went, see ya. Have a nice time.
Can I just say something as well? Sorry, Talia, to cut you there, mate, before Bill comes in. My worry for next season, right, we're going to end up 16th, 17th, 15th, right? My worry for next season is some of these players, supposedly world-class players, are going to want to move on. Your Kulus.
For sure.
Romero's going, right? He's gone. Van der Ven will look to go, or he'll start sort of putting his head above water, go, right, where can I go next?
Yeah.
Who else? Help me out.
Players that look great, like Bergvall and people.
Bergvall, sorry.
What's the future for me here? Because there's no leaders in the team to even learn from.
Exactly. That's my worry, guys and girls. That is my worry. That I think no matter who comes in, he's going to have to pick these players up. Some are going to want to leave, and then we start again. And then he's for the future. He's for 2035. He's going to be good in 2039. He's going to be really good after 15 loan spells.
No, it's true. But I think, you know what? It is. But I think why it's frustrating this time is because we all thought, I guess, for the first time since Poch, that we had a project manager that was going to be there for a bit of the long haul and will take those youngsters and help them grow and develop and all of those things. So that's what we were excited about. And even based on last season, things weren't great, but they weren't terrible. And we were all looking forward to this season because we thought, things will be so much better. And I think where it's been the polar opposite of that, that's been really difficult for everyone because it just went south so quickly. I generally don't think next season will be as bad as this. I would like to think this is a blip and we are not, a team that's going to finish in 16th, 17th, repeatedly. But who says no? Like at the moment, there's nothing, or there's no evidence to kind of fight against that. It's just pure belief as a fan, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard. I think just, but any of those managers, even that you mentioned, sorry, just before we bring Billie in, I don't think any of them are that inspiring. And, they are mid kind of table managers. And look, I know we're mid table, if not lower right now. But, like you guys said, with our £1 billion stadium, training ground, cheese room and, brewery and everything else that's inside of it, we should be aiming for better than that and having people come in. And I know the big name manager hasn't worked for us and all of these things. And I generally don't have the answer to who is right, but it's a really hard conversation. And like I said, tiring for everyone. But look, there's no, huge obvious fit at the moment. I think for all of us, that's why these conversations are being had and there's so many names around there.
I think the big managers that we talk about, they could have worked for us. Mourinho got us to a final. Conte got us to Champions League. Because Conte got sacked when we were sitting fifth. Jose, as we all know and we say every other year, got sacked 5 days before a final. Poor Kane has never won a trophy at Spurs. He could have won that day if he was there. Yes, all right, Ryan Mason took charge, but it's them near misses all the time. And this guy, bless him, is still in a job after we're sitting probably 17th by Monday after the weekend before we play Forest, who are no mugs.
No.
And that's my worry. And I think whoever we go to, it's going to be another uphill battle next season. It really will.
Do you think, before I bring Bill in there, Tal?
Sorry, Bill, mate.
I'm enjoying this.
You interrupt us. We don't shut up.
I haven't seen Talia for years.
Just a final one, Tal, on this. With regards to Ange in general, I know you're quite a moderate fan. You're quite a patient person as well. I mean, maybe apart from when we're talking about Tottenham. Do you see anything, Tal, to give you an indication that even if we won the Europa League, this would be worth keeping with for another season with Ange? Do you see anything that would give you that suggestion?
Honestly, no. I think it's kind of too little too late for that. I wanted to really like Ange, but I think you have literally seen any light drain from his eyes as the weeks have got on. And as someone that goes week in and week out to the game and pays a lot of money to go to football, I don't want to sit there and have someone that, laughs and does what God knows what with the fans, or walks down the tunnel and does all of this and is so uninspiring in any interview he does. Like, I just don't like that. And actually it completely contradicts the stuff that we did like him at the beginning, because, we thought, oh, how nice to have honesty and like a bit of a joke in these presses and all of these things. And I think now it's not like that at all. And I don't get it. And I think, look, things could have been different. And genuinely, genuinely, I wanted to like him. And it's upsetting that I kind of don't. But I think he just doesn't have it. And that's not just down to him. He is not the sole person to blame. I genuinely do think it is a cocktail of things as well. And he's been given a shit hand. And we've had all these injuries and whatever else. But it's just kind of not worked out for him, I think. And he'd do better, with less pressure on him, where he's got more time. And yeah, it's sad, but again, I don't think anyone could have come in and done, that much better. Anyway, I think everyone, unless it was Poch and everyone loves Poch and everything is be fantastic and life is great, everyone would have criticised whoever it was, no matter what. I think we've just unfortunately had like a really bad time. So it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, even with Poch, though, there's still a lot of people I know that wouldn't want him back. I know as much as Tal, I think I'd take him back, you'd take him back. I know many would take him back. I know there's not that wouldn't take him back. I mean, Bill, it's on this point, Bill, quite interesting. I know a lot of fans from the outside look at Tottenham and just think, you haven't got the stomach for a rebuild. Ange said a few weeks ago that, you're not allowed a bad season at the football club, because if you have one bad season, you're out the door. What do you say to fans that have that mindset about Tottenham fans in general, that lack patience, that lack courage for a rebuild? I mean, having witnessed what we witnessed over the last 18 months, what would you say to those fans?
I would say look at how this season's gone, to be honest, because I think fans have been very patient with POSTECOGLOU, particularly in the stadium. I see a lot of criticism aimed at Tottenham fans, but at the end of the day, we've had to stomach in the flesh 17 losses in the season. I don't know how any fan base would be able to deal with that, really. Like, I think the fact that it's only really got toxic in the last couple of games, I think is a huge testament to actually Tottenham fans have been really patient this season. I think they've been generally really supportive of Ange as well. There's no other manager that's ever been graced this amount of period of bad form, like, this bad. So I don't like reading online. Lots of people seem to, say, what about the fan base? It's the fans' fault. I don't think it is the fans' fault. The fans are the ones that are having to, pay the highest ticket prices in Europe. The fans are the ones that are having to travel all over the country and watch these losses, spending their time and money on this. The fans are the ones that have to stomach the 17 losses. So I don't buy into the fact that Tottenham are a toxic fan base. I think any fan base in the country, set with the season that we've had, would be handled in a similar way. And I think generally Tottenham fans have been really patient and supportive of Ange Postecoglou. There's only been, home games. I have season tickets. I've been to every single home game by a couple. And in the stadium has rarely got toxic towards Ange. There's been no booing, no like significant sort of discontent. A couple of times in the away ends, obviously that's happened because your away fans are your core passionate supporters, and I think that's to be expected, especially when he himself keeps rising to fans and challenging fans and gesturing towards fans and things like that. I don't think he helps himself at times, but I think Tottenham fans have been incredibly patient, and at the end of the day, we keep being told about rebuilds. We've been waiting for 17 years now for any kind of success. So if that's not patience, then I don't know what is.
I was literally going to say exactly the same thing, because even if we are toxic, everyone else would be as well. Like, we've literally got nothing positive to shout about. So I think anyone
what we're supposed to do, just go and cheer every game, like when we're losing every single game.
Exactly. We're long-suffering people that pay a shit ton of money to go and watch utter dross half the time. You get made fun of online because of every Spurs joke under the sun. Like, it's just not pleasant, and it's not classic toxicity. It's just difficult to be able to channel that and repeat the cycle over and over again for years and years. Like, that is draining and takes its toll on anyone. Shouldn't be labelled, I think, for that.
Yeah, I think also what is a big problem, Bill, just to come back to, is the fact that, we've seen that relationship with Ange and the fans really deteriorate in the last kind of 2-3 months. And I think what a lot of people loved Ange for was because he was always quite honest. He spoke to the fans as if we were almost in the room with him. I think what has been his biggest letdown recently, and we're going to come on to Frankfurt in just a second, is that I think what really would have lost many people's confidence is when you heard him on the back of the Wolves game suggesting that we've made a number of unusual characteristic mistakes. And it's bizarre because we have seen a lot of the individual errors really across the season. And it just feels at the moment that the manager's telling us one thing and we're watching something else.
Yeah, and I think he's really crumbled the last few months. And it's a real shame. I've said many times, I really bought into him and his personality. And if you remember at the very beginning when he came, we played in a friendly, and I think we lost the friendly. And the Spurs TV interviewer said, we might have lost, but we played really well, didn't we? And Ange had a go at him. He called him out on the spot and said, I'm never going to say we played well after a loss. You go back to the Wolves game, 2 years later, he's saying, I think we played really well, actually. And, those mistakes are out of character. He's almost sort of contradicted his own character. And I think you can label that as being cracking under the pressure, or you can say, is it a cultural issue at our club? When Ant mentioned earlier, Mourinho and Conte is the reason that they didn't work so well, because they have higher standards than the standards that we have set at our club. And Ange came in with high standards, and he sort of lowered himself to the club. Mourinho and Conte never really did that. They just sort of left, but before that kind of happened. So, I come back to the culture of our club because I think that's a really important thing, which is probably why we're just here again and again and again with all these managers keep failing, because I don't think the culture is right.
Yeah, I agree. Look, it's tough. Look, we are going to, on that point, with regards to those respective managers, leave it there. We have got to look ahead to, of course, Tottenham. Massive second leg to come against Eintracht Frankfurt, which is going to really, I think, for many, of course, be, as we all know, the season decider. Before we do that, we're just going to bring you up with the latest news and views on the transfer front. We'll bring up to date on what has been happening in the world of Spurs from social media perspective. There are reports Spurs, ironically, they're in the race to sign Hugo EKITIKE. I think I've absolutely, Bill, have I killed that off?
No, that's right. EKITIKE. You got that right.
EKITIKE, thank you. Of course, a player Spurs are going to be seeing on Thursday. We played against them, and he scored against us last week, of course. He currently has 14 league goals to his name so far. Scored, as I mentioned last week. He's the young forward that came through the Rems Academy. He was spending some time on loan with PSG before that loan to Frankfurt, which was made permanent in April last year. Frankfurt are understood to want in the region, and get ready, around 100 million for the player, which probably already rules Tottenham out, given Daniel Levy's warning about needing to be sustainable. Right, Bill, should we cross that one off already?
I think so, mate. 100 mil. I think you'd have an aneurysm for that price.
We'll move on to the more of the calibre of players Tottenham tend to try and look at and go for. And next is Tyler Diblin. Tottenham are understood to be keen on the Southampton winger, but are currently considered as outsiders in the race for Diblin. German side RB Leipzig are reportedly the front runners to sign the in-demand Southampton winger, who again is going to be commanding quite a high fee. Spurs are reported to have had a 35 million bid turned down for him in the January window, with understood to be interest from City, United, Chelsea, Newcastle, all on the radar when it comes to the summer. So one to keep an eye on, Tyler Diblin, another young prospect. You'd imagine Spurs will be right at the front of the queue because, as we know, we love bringing young players to the club. Someone that's also been linked to Tottenham in the last 24 hours, likely, how unlikely, I'll let the audience decide, and that is Jack Grealish. This link with Grealish doesn't tend to go away at the moment. Again, a player that's been pinpointed by also Newcastle and Villa that are at the moment, of course, looking like they're going to secure some form of European football for next season. Grealish is a target for all three clubs as he looks to kickstart his career once again after being on the bench for Man City for the majority of the season. One to watch. Another player on this occasion that could be heading out of the football club is Richarlison, who is being lined up by Everton in a sensational move to bring him back to Goodison Park. David Moyes is understood to be a fan of the player, although there is also Saudi interest in Richarlison, who, as we know, has had a season plighted by injuries. So we'll bring you more on that when we get it. We also understand Leeds United do want to make the loan signing of Manuel Solomon permanent in the summer. Tottenham are expected to demand 15 million for his services. That is your latest transfer news on this episode of Last Word on Spurs. If there's any more, we'll bring it to you. Right, we're going to go ahead and look ahead to now the Frankfurt second leg game to come. As we know, both sides drew level last week, 1-1 on aggregate. It sets it up for a mouth-watering, I'd say for the neutral mouth-watering second leg. It quite interestingly, despite being 19, Matisse Tell, he's played Frankfurt 5 times already. He's won twice. He's drawn 3. He's yet to score against them. Mickey van der Ven, he's played 3 times against them and is also unbeaten with 1 win and 2 draws. Not sure if he'll see the pitch, but Timo Werner has also had experience taking them on. He's taken them on 17 times, won 8, drawn 3, losing 6. Guys, I mean, look, and you said it to me earlier, you've got massive concerns for the game in terms of confidence going into it. Let me ask you, what do Tottenham need to do, in your opinion, to be able to go there and get a result?
They need to turn up, and as Talia had said, and Bill said, they're gonna have to want it. This is the biggest game of our season, a quarter-final going into a semi-final, hopefully. The minute they go over that line, regardless of what's gone on in the changing room, regardless of what Andrew said to him, just go and play for us, man. Go and play for that shirt. Go and play for a career-changing game that you will always remember and be remembered for in a season where it's been absolute dross. This is massive. This is so big, this game. And especially if they're not down the road qualify for the semis, the pressure's on, boy. The pressure is on. And I just don't know if they've got it in them. I want them to have it in them. We all do. Everyone here listening, watching, we want to be able to go through on Thursday. But my heart's saying we won't get through, but my head's saying that I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. It's hard.
I hate being negative. I hate it, but it's the truth, man.
I know. I mean, they've had a morale boosting 3-0 win over Heidenheim at the weekend. Served as the perfect preparation for them. That marked the 3rd straight home win for Frankfurt and moved them 5 points clear inside the Bundesliga top 4. Actually, Champions League looking a near uncertainty, even if they do not win the competition. I mean, there'll be a lot of emphasis and focus on the fact that Kulusevski made a premature return for Spurs in that Wolves game. He got a good 25 minutes under his belt. I mean, the thing about Spurs recently is you'd arguably say that I think Maddison's also started the last 4 is there a maybe debate whether you play Maddison and Kulusevski together, Tal? Do you think we could do that and get away with that out there, or do you think that's far too attacking given how leaky we've been recently at the back?
I feel like, knowing Ange, he is not going to take any risks. He is not going to change anything. I think he will play the team that we probably expect him to play will be quite safe, because, as he said in his post-match interview, some things just went against us, and the way we actually played a lot of the time was fine and stuff like that. I don't think he'll do much, even though we're all literally begging on our knees for him to do something different. He's not going to. And then, hope that we can damage limitation to some degree, and then he'll bring on extra legs and hope that we can somehow kill him later on in the game with fresh legs. That's how I see it going, genuinely. Look, we've been waiting for Decky to come back. Before he got injured, he was one of the only players on that pitch that did anything creative, made anything for us, and he was superb. He was our player of the season by far, in that first kind of half of the season. So to have him back is fantastic. I think my problem with this team is that, we're changing things around all the time and we don't have that consistency. And I know I've spoken about this on here so many times before, but a lot of the time you watch them and they don't connect with each other and they don't know what the others are doing. They stand there and they're like, and you're like, oh my God, like you can see it so clearly, but
zero, Tal, zero, let you come back in. Zero communications there. Zero communication.
And it is so frustrating to watch. And I know they don't have that bond and they haven't played together for all these games, but they train together every day. They should know exactly what that person is going to do or how they're going to find the space. And that's just not there. And that concerns me because this group of players and whoever is going to put out probably haven't played, collectively together for a really long time. In that hostile environment under pressure, it takes one individual error, for things to go south. And you can see that happening. And, I hate to say it, but Vicario makes me so nervous. Every time it's got the ball, I literally cannot even open my eyeballs. It is so stressful. And you think just with those guys in front of him, I don't know who it was for Frankfurt, but it was well fast the other day. He was flying along the pitch and we're so slow. Everything we do is static and slow. And I just when you can see into the future and how the game is going to play out and all of us know it. And you just think, just change it.
I just worry because Ad's got the next 18 months already planned out.
Yeah, I know.
It's the back pass. It's the dreaded back pass that I'm thinking on Thursday.
Yeah, you can just see how it's going to pan out. For me,
it's going to be that, isn't it? It's going to be that
the whole time, and everything will be so nervous, and that someone in the crowd will do something, and they'll be like, "Oh," and they'll be so on edge, and something will get fucked up early, and then we'll be like, "Right, it's like the Champions League final all over again, fucked up within a few minutes, and everything's gone to shit." So, I hope we're wrong, but I feel like that's what's going to happen. And we'll be look. This is why I'm pessimistic because I'd rather be pleasantly surprised than disappointed. But it's like that's how I see it happening. But I genuinely hope and knows it's his last hurrah, and he will just throw the team onto the pitch and be like, "Just score freaking goals. I don't care how many you can see, just score," and it all works out. But is that going to happen? No, it's not. Then go to someone that's got more knowledge than me because that
look, Tal, look, as you said, you go there every other week to the stadium. So, look, you are one of the best qualified people to be able to suggest what's going to happen because you've seen it all in front of your eyes and you get a gauge of the fan base. On that point, before I bring Bill in, Tal, tell me, Tal, what the mood around you at the stadium, describe it.
Miserable. Do you know what? Where I sit, I'm in the middle of the South Stand, literally, and not where all the corporate people are. So generally where the atmosphere is, and it is diabolical. And there's me, my dad, and this guy in our row that are the only people that sing. And you look around and you think, what? How is no one singing? It is so frustrating. And I was saying this, on Thursday, I actually sat in a different spot, and it was actually worse. It was worse than when I normally am. And I just think, how crazy to have a home tie in a quarter-final and arguably your most important game to date and the only chance at any kind of merit. And the fans just aren't singing. And I know it's hard to be excited, but, they say that it's the 12th man, whatever, for a reason sometimes. And at least at the beginning, once you concede, fair enough, shut up. But before that, at least try. It's not a happy place to be. And no, it's not super toxic or anything like that. It's just not how a £1 billion stadium should be. It's full of people, fans that are paying a lot of money. Cheer on everyone, or at least give it a whirl, because you don't get to go to games like that very often. And it is difficult to hype yourself up for it sometimes, but it's not nice, because then you just think, even for next year, I don't know what position or how this season's going to end. I think we all can guess, but
yeah,
what we've got to pay up in the next, 6 weeks or whatever it is, all that money again. And you think, well, what for? Why am I going to do that? And to sit around more people that don't care, it's just not very good, is it?
I mean,
God, I'm
funny.
so pessimistic.
No,
Sorry.
I mean, but what I find it intriguing is that, look, I've got 3 fans here that go regularly to the stadium, season ticket holders. On that point, how you mentioned, do you ever get to that point where you just think, what? I mean, look, you love the club. We all love the club, but you get to that point, what am I renewing for? You're renewing because obviously there's hope, that belief that next season will be better. But I mean, the stadium itself, and it's one of those things where, look, it's a lovely stadium, don't get me wrong. And when there's been great nights in there, which have been very few and far between, obviously the Conte game under Arsenal, where we won 3-0. Now, I know when you do that journey that you do, and it's not an easy journey. If you're going for an hour and a half either way, you want to feel you're going to go to the stadium. And sorry, but we're not being this word at the moment. I know we use the word entertain, but the only way you're entertained really is by winning games. When you're not winning games, as you've said, Tal, it's a very, very sad place to be, right? Difficult.
Yeah, it's just, I think you need to at least appreciate, or you want to feel like the players appreciate that people are putting in their time, their money, energy, everything into going to the stadium. And I don't think that is the vibe at the moment. And it's difficult because I'm like, look, one of the reasons I love going to football is because I get to be with my dad. My dad lives 2.5 hours from where I am. We get to spend time together. That's great. But that used to be, I get to see my dad. I get to go football, do all these things. And now I'm like, I don't care about the football. I'm going because I want to spend time with him. And that's not what you pay money for, because I could be anywhere, especially not in a football ground. But I know so many people are like that. That's time where they get to spend time with their family or their friends or whatever. And that's, you have beers and you get excited about the game and chat. And now it's just, everything's so dull. And it's difficult. I think long term, that grates on you no matter who you are, especially, if you're quite optimistic and just generally love football. It's a difficult place to be in, but look, I hope it changes for everyone. And I know it's a commonality between a lot of people at the moment. It's how a lot of people feel. And I think we just need something to cling on to that is positive. And I'm sorry that it's not coming from me at the moment. But look, all we want is really simple stuff. Play for the badge, play with your heart. Just try your best and let the fans clap you because you've given it. Like Villa just now. They ended 5-4 on aggregate. Don't know if you've seen, they just got knocked out. They scored all those quick goals. I guarantee you every single fan in that stadium would have clapped them to death because they were, so far gone at the beginning and obviously turned it around and gave it their absolute best to make a thing of it. And you applaud that. What we've got, final whistle goes and you boo half the time and they cover it up with the music and whatever else. And you think, that's just not a lovely place to be. But anyway,
I have to apologise. I've deviated away from the Frankfurt preview. I will come back round to Bill, although Bill's also seems to get older. And Bill also knows the mood at the moment. I mean, look, Bill, we know we're facing a Frankfurt side that, with all due respect, they've only won one of their previous 5 meetings versus Spurs, and they all come back. That all come back in the way of 1982. It wasn't a quarter-final. At that time, it was the Cup Winners' Cup, coming out 2-1 winners. History, of course, does not bode too well for Spurs entering this fixture because they've lost 6 of their last 7 trips to Germany in the knockout stages of European competition, and they failed to score in 4 of the last 5. We've not been happy travellers this season on the road. Anything that gives you the indication we can change that on Thursday?
I think the only thing that will happen is possible is individual quality. We got it. Are they going to turn up? I'm sick of reading every week at this point. These players saying, their agents coming out and saying, my player, Van der Ven, he's going to be playing for Real Madrid one day. Why don't they go and show a Real Madrid level performance on Thursday then?
Absolutely.
Why don't they get us into the Champions League?
Apart from the run they put in last week.
Yeah, and then they can start talking about Real Madrid. Maybe why don't you get us to the Champions League first before you start talking about Real Madrid? I'm not just singling out Van der Ven, because I know it was his agent, Sarr.
Sarr as well,
Yeah, there's Sarr, Dragoshin's agent even had the gall to say it multiple times. It's like, well, when are the players going to step up? This is they could write themselves into Tottenham history this week and this season. They could become the most successful team since the 1980s. We've just by turning up and by playing for the badge and by having that bit of spirit. Why don't they go and just do it, man? Because I just think, like, there's so much individual quality in our team, and we're not seeing it at the moment. We're seeing the heads drop. You know, Romero walking down the tunnel last week and stuff like that. When are they going to turn up for Tottenham and show them, all right, I'm going to play my actual heart out for Tottenham? Because that's all we want as fans. Aston Villa, they lost on the tie overall tonight, but you can imagine the feeling inside that stadium. That would have been incredible to witness. We would just want something like that. We want like a Tottenham moment. And I think, you know, players like Son, Maddison, they have the individual quality to win any game of football. I really hope that we see it for Tottenham for once.
I hope so. What's your take, Bill, on the starting 11? Because there'll be calls that Jed Spence maybe should start, but then a doggy was picked over him in the first leg. You've got, again, that situation around midfield where if it is Angie's final last dance, as I've called it, does he pair Kulusevski and Maddison together, or is that far too open? You know, it just feels that, you know, for a game where of the magnitude of what it is, does he just go out on his shield and play a attacking side that are going to go there and take the game to Frankfurt? How do you see he'll play it in terms of the selection, Bill?
I hope so, to be honest, because I think our best points of the season this season, particularly when we played the Manchester sides, Kulusevski and Maddison have been playing together. And I think we're such a different team when they're both playing together because there are creative outlets. And I think with one of them, we sometimes struggle to create anything. I think in a game like this, where Frankfurt are going to be fighting for their lives, they're going to sit back and try and soak up the pressure. We want our attacking players on. I think the only consideration would be it's quite a strong chance that it might go to extra time. And I think Talia mentioned earlier that, you know, our deep squad might come into favour if you put Kulu on the bench and bring him on the second half. But for me, I would just like to see them start and go and take the game to them. Because I just know with Tottenham, you can always tell within 1 or 2 minutes how the rest of the game is going to go. What will either happen is
we're normally one down by the first minute.
We'll either come out flying or we'll nervously pass back to Vicario or boot it out for a throw-in. And if that happens, we've lost.
Oh, man, I tell you. You know what? Just bringing it on to team news for the game. I must just say that before I do say the team news, Spurs' dramatic semi-final win over Ajax in 2019 is the only occasion in the last 10 where Spurs have still advanced from a European tie after failing to win at home in the first leg. As I mentioned earlier, 5 defeats from their last 7 on the road in Europe does go in to explain why the club are slight underdogs for this one. In terms of team news for Frankfurt, they are welcoming Can, Zazun and El Wahi back into the squad. They do remain without the important Angs Knuff due to a knee injury. They've got goalkeeper Santos, who was the star man in the first leg. They've also got Kevin Trapp, who is still recovering from a shin injury, so he could return, although Santos was the star. I mean, was it with Tottenham and facing backup goalkeepers? They always seem to have an absolute blinder. Then what I'll get is a call from Ant telling me with a list of the last 10 substitute goalkeepers have all a blinder against us and remind me and saying, this is why we're cursed. This is why we're cursed. Oh, it feels like a big week for the football club. Feels like a big week. I mean, what I would say just on the back of what Bill says there is that as a group of players, forget the manager for a second, and as actually Anne said, you've got the chance to make history where you could be taking something to a semi-final of a European competition, or you will be remembered as a group of players that were part of a Tottenham team that are going to probably finish 17th in the Premier League. Who wants to be remembered for that? I mean, that's what in itself should be a general motivation for the players. I mean, Anne, do you feel the players, you know, regardless of anything else around the club, the chairman, the manager, this is on the players now in terms of self-motivation? Yeah, this is their time to step up, right?
100%, Rick, 100%. As I said, whatever Ange says in that dressing room, just go out there. Just go out there. And if you see it going wrong, as Bill said, the first 1-2 minutes, see it going, just change it up. Just do something. You know, go and enjoy it. But most of all, go and play for that badge, as we've said on this panel tonight. Yeah? Because I don't want another season of what ifs and buts and maybes. I want to be proud of this team like we all do on this panel and the people listening and watching the show. But I just feel a lot of emphasis has to be on them players, man, because they've let us down this season. They really have. Yes, we've had injuries, but every club has injuries. That to me is a pure excuse. I've had excuses of I'll wait until he gets the squad back. Well, he's had the squad back for like 5 or 6, 7 games. I think we've won one of them. And I haven't seen a progression in these players. The only way it can happen on Thursday, if they go out and show, as Bill said, the quality that they can have on the day.
Mm.
And it goes back to not making silly mistakes and play players in their proper positions. I don't, you know, bless Archie, great. I don't want to see him at right back.
No.
That to me on Sunday was an absolute waste of time. The poor bloke. You hung him out to dry, man. You hung him out to dry. You got Spence on the bench. You had Porro on the bench. Play them in that position. Do you know what I'm saying? Rick, have you got every player that I mentioned on photos? All right, I'm going to... Michael
Within
Dawson.
reason. No, I've got Dawson. Why am I not going that far back?
So do you know what I mean? So jokes is like, you know, the poor bloke. I want to see Archie in his natural position, which he hasn't played all season. So if anything, maybe give him a chance on Thursday. Do you know what I'm saying? He can't do as bad a job as what we've seen. So give him a chance. He probably won't, and I know he won't. But to see him on Sunday, players out of their positions, like, it was an absolute waste of time, that game. It was pathetic from minute 1 to minute 90. An atrocious game, and I don't want to see that on Thursday.
What's your gauge, Tal, on Romero? I'm wondering what you do with Romero, because it is the biggest game of Spurs this season, and Romero has been obviously known for now a number of high-profile errors for Tottenham. Obviously, everyone was really, really hoping when you were going to pair Van de Ven and Romero together, which has been few and far between this season, that would be the hopeful return of Tottenham's form. I mean, yes, look, they've not been paired together many times purely because Spurs have been protecting Mickey, maybe over Romero to some degree, because Romero's been given game time and doesn't look like his head's quite in the game at the moment. It feels like his head's been really with Madrid, Atletico, Real through most of this season. I mean, would you have any concerns about playing Romero in such a big game on Thursday?
I mean, yeah, but who are you going to play instead? You know, I think he's frustrating because his head's definitely not in it, and he does slow the game down a lot, and he is accountable for quite a lot of mistakes. But then he also does a few things that you think, that was so worth it, or you needed him to do that thing. I think at the moment, in a way, it's a bit of a shame we don't have Kevin Danzo or someone else that's fit that could potentially challenge for that spot. In a game like this, I think you have to play him because he's still, him and Mickey are still our best centre-back pairing at the moment, and you play your best in a game regardless of mentality and where their head's at. You'd like to think that regardless of anything, they put the club and the importance of that game first and do that, and that shouldn't have anything to do with where your head's at all. Yeah, exactly. So no, you have to play him, but it is frustrating because you don't want to kind of give that to somebody that isn't in the game. But no, I think you have to play him and just hope that, fingers crossed, it acts as a vice captain. And
I would love to see, I'd love to see a Toby and Jan performance, mate, from these two on Thursday. A lot of, as Talia said, a lot of talk's been talked about these two lads, and they have got ability. Yes, they have got something that we're proud of, but they don't touch Toby and Jan or even Ledley and Dawson.
No, they're not the pair we kind of hype them up to be.
Not at all, Talia. And this is the thing. And I always say to Ricky, just don't go overboard with these players. Don't get too emotionally attached.
I've not had the chance to go overboard.
No, I know, but do you know what I mean? I'm not saying you because I love you, right. Mate, but
I mean, the problem is
Toby and Jan, them two lads, Toby and Jan, Ledley and Michael, Ledley and even Woodgate, they had something, man. They had something, and I think these two lads need to watch them even tonight. Go and watch them how they fought for that badge, man. Week in, week out. Toby shouting, Jan having to go at everyone. Romero just he can make a mistake. He might even get sent off on Thursday. It's one of them games, isn't it? You don't feel comfortable watching him. You don't feel comfortable. Yes, he has got Billie. Yes, he has won a World Cup. But it's either going to be a yellow card game or a red card game. It's one of them with him.
It's hard, Bill. It's so hard, Bill, because Romero, as good as he is for his country, this season his head's just not been in the game, and that'll be a worry, won't it, Bill?
Yeah, it will definitely be a worry, I think, man. But and I think we have to play him, though, don't we? There's no alternative. I think he's on his day, he'll be our best defender, but I do think Ant is right. There's probably a significant step down from Toby and Jan, who are probably the best defenders I've seen at Tottenham, probably the best defenders I'll ever see as a unit. I don't think, I don't think I'll ever get to see a centre-back pairing that good again, unfortunately. But that's the kind of standards that we used to have. That was, that's what they'll always be judged against now. And Romero, Van de Ven, two pretty decent defenders. But can you look at any one of our defenders in the last 2 seasons and say we have been a good defence? We've shipped goals, for 2 years now, constantly. And that sort of, it's like the attitude, isn't it? You want to defend every single ball, like you want to clear every single ball that we don't seem to have. There seems to be, there's a little bit of the mentality missing, I think. They just want, there's always, Romero can sometimes let the temperament get to him. I think they switch off sometimes. Van de Ven is excellent at making recovery tackles, but he's not like a sort of, he's not the class of someone like Toby and Jan where they lived and breathed, defending. Van de Ven is a sort of a specific defender who's really good at, with his pace. But I don't know. I just think it's a mentality thing. And I think Romero, would he be putting these kind of performances for Argentina? Probably not. And that's a shame.
No, I mean, I know he had a bit of a mishap whilst he was on his way on his last international duty, but the thing is, it just feels that his head isn't quite here at the moment. I mean, what
the biggest thing for me is when he walked down the tunnel on Wolves, he was captain in that game as well. I think that's a disgrace. That's an absolute disgrace to be the first person down the tunnel, leaving the 19-year-old lonely to come out and face the media. You're captain for Tottenham.
He had a shocker though, and hopefully he got it out of his system. And Thursday will be completely different. That is the only positive spin I can put on it. Is
that's the thing with football. Everything can change so quickly. Go and put in a man of the match performance on Thursday. Everything's forgiven, isn't it? But
this is what I mean about this season, isn't it? The reality is that no one's going to remember if Spurs finish in 17th if we go and win the Europa League. But again, the thing is, I know there's going to be those glaring questions around the manager. It just feels at Tottenham there is no get out at the moment. It just one scenario leads to then another scenario, and when you want to try and enjoy it for a minute, and you then think about what the next scenario brings. That the most important thing for us all, we want to see the club progress. Whether that's going to mean Ange Postecoglou is going to remain in the job or he's not going to remain in the job. The most important thing is Tottenham going out there, getting the win, and progressing. A final one to you all, guys. How important is the first goal of the game given our away form? How do you feel, Bill, on that point? Do you feel that it's really important that Spurs score first, or do you feel that if they were to score first and would be chasing the game, would heads drop given the current form at the moment of the club?
I think an early Frankfurt goal and we're done, to be honest. We don't have the character to pull that off. We have to score first, and then hopefully if we score first, they'll come out at us and we can pick them off, in the transitions. But if they score first, it could get ugly, I think.
What's the prediction, Bill?
You know what? I say it every time. I'm a dreamer. I'm going to say my dreams. I think Tottenham win 2-1 in extra time.
Okay. 2-1.
I don't think that'll happen, but that's what I'm praying happens.
All right, Bill, very quickly. That's your dream. That's your dream ahead. What really happens, Bill? Or do you not want to disclose what really happens?
I prefer not to speak.
Typical Billie T, leave us on a cliffhanger. How does it work? What happens?
I mean, I completely agree, unfortunately. The only thing I will, again, be slightly optimistic about is I often feel that we're complacent and we don't start playing until we concede sometimes. So I completely think our heads will go if we concede early on. But there is a small part of me that thinks, well, when we do concede, we do start playing football sometimes because we have no choice, and it kind of kicks our asses into gear a little bit. So I think we'll crumble, but I hope that we kind of use it as an opportunity. But I don't know.
I'll tell you what, because of the kind of week we've got and what is happening in that game on Wednesday night, because we're recording this on Tuesday, we may be in a situation where we're doing a second show then ever to emigrate quickly if they're not down the road reaching Champions League final. Honestly, what a week! What has this season brought us to? I really hope. I don't want to imagine. I can imagine, but I don't want to imagine it.
No, exactly.
Tal, you're going for a Spurs win. Yeah, you think we can do it?
I don't think in my 8+ years I've ever come on here and said no.
No, you haven't.
I don't think I have. So I'm going to say 2-1 because that's what my heart says. My smart head that is extremely clever. Don't ask me about that. Well, that's the only thing I've got.
Honestly.
I just dread to. Well, I say dread to think what the rest of this week looks like, and if we don't go through, and I know you won't kid us. You said it earlier that you don't think Tottenham are going to progress.
I just don't think we've got the character, bruv. Unfortunately, coming on to what Billie was saying, if we go 1-0 down, it's game over. Game over. End of story. Game set. Match done. I would love us to win. Of course I do. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I just can't see it, mate. I just cannot see it, and I hate being that person. I hope I'm wrong. I hope everyone gives me pelters on Friday morning. I told you so. I want that. I would love that. Billie, I want you to hammer me as well, mate. You know what I mean? Because your
Can I-
wise words, and Talia as well, give me some. But after what I've seen this season, nothing suggests to me that we can go out there and beat them.
As
And
my
I
mum is-
hope it pains me to say it, people. It
Yeah.
really does.
as my
Can
mum
I
is
ask a
saying,
question? Can I ask a
Go on,
question? Do you think if we lose, he's gone on Friday?
Yeah,
I think he's gone on Friday. Yeah,
I think it's gone Friday, Bill. I really do, bud.
Plane is in
Yeah.
Stansted.
Yeah.
Exactly. What's there to play for the next 5 games? I mean,
No,
Forest will be an
Forest
absolute
game on Monday
calamity
could be.
game.
Well,
Oh, mate.
if we lose,
You know what's interesting? Because I mean, because it's interesting. I mean, the thing is, I'd imagine because of how Tottenham have done their pressers this season, unless I'm mistaken, 'cause it's Good Friday and they won't do a presser. I mean, Ange normally what he's always done is he's always done the presser the next morning to look ahead to the next game. So, you know, that has to be quite a quick turnaround. If they're gonna sack Ange and then they've got the Forest game on Monday, I'm wondering already who takes the presser for Monday.
Who always gets lumped with
Well, yeah, I mean, I would imagine there's got.
Really?
I imagine.
Who cares about pressers? We're 17th, brother. It
Hey,
don't
Jesus.
matter.
You know what makes me laugh?
We're
I'll
up
say-
against Nuno. That's what it's going to be about. Nuno.
Exactly. And you know what's going to happen with Nuno? He's going to beat us, isn't he?
100%.
100%.
Jesus died on Good Friday as well, didn't he? So that's what can happen on Friday.
Oh, we're not doing Forest already yet, are we?
So
I
I think it's going to be a mistake from us on Thursday. As I said, it's going to be a bad back pass, and it's just going to be.
Do you know what made me laugh? And you might want to say this because like you're one of my best mates in the world.
Yeah.
Is when we were 10 games unbeaten under Ange, even at that point, I was calling you up going, Ant, this is amazing. You know what we're doing, and you went, Rick, I'm worried. And we were in the first 10 games. We were unbeaten, and you were worried. And,
I was, mate. I was because you could see it happening, man. You could see something drastically happening, and what happens? Chelsea against a former manager. 2 people get sent off, an injury, and we lose 4-1. And then it's when I heard it's who we are. That's when I thought, nah, mate, I can't have this.
You know
Can't
what?
have this.
You know what? That quote. You know that quote is going to haunt us. I think forever as fans.
And
Like,
I always win in my second season. That's gonna.
Yes, that's the one, Bill. That's the one, bud.
Honestly, everywhere I go, it's just who we are, mate. It's just who we are, mate. And I think
Yeah, it's just who we are.
I bet so many of these scummy fans have already got memes in their locker
Yeah,
ready
it's
to
just
go
like-
about this. Like you just know it, don't
That
you?
second season
Set
quote
up
is
perfectly.
Thursday coming out.
you know what?
It's going to happen,
the
innit?
thought of this week, kind of what could happen this week when you think about it. If them lot go through, if we go out Friday morning and then they sack the manager, this week could be a. I
And
tell
then
you.
we've got to play Nuno on Monday.
Yeah, that's Monday, and Bill, that's the start of a new week. That's when it's going to get better, not worse. It's like.
Thing is, you have to laugh or you cry. Like this is so depressing.
What did we do to deserve this? Like, I don't
I
know.
know, right? What
Happy
have we
Easter,
done, people?
everybody.
What have
I
we
tell
done?
you.
We only support this club. It's like we're not bad. It's not bad. Like,
All right, let's
so much.
manifest. We're gonna win.
2-1.
Real Madrid are going to be unbelievable.
Oh,
Go
man.
through.
Madrid. Come on,
And
Madrid.
I think we'll still lose to Nuno. But the rest.
I'll take that. I don't care if we lose to Nuno.
Exactly, that's fine, but that bit I
5-0.
can't manifest or see that bit.
You
out.
have Nuno on Monday bringing out his whole family against the stadium, waving around everywhere. We've been trunced like 7-0, and you know, listen, if we go through. No, I honestly mean this. I know. Again, the Wolves game. Look, every Premier League game you lose, it hurts you. I don't care whether it was whether you know whatever you feel as a fan about it being meaningless or not. You don't want your team to lose.
No.
The thing is, if Tottenham do reach a semi-final of the Europa League, I honestly don't think many fans will genuinely care that wholeheartedly about the Forest game on Monday. You don't want to see your team get trashed at home, don't get me wrong, but I think we'd all still be on an absolute high of beating Frankfurt because
Of course.
genuinely, everyone I've spoken to outside of the show tonight and just fan, you know, you guys speak to Spurs fans all the time. I think as a percentage, 10% of fans think we're going to go through? If it's that?
I know. It's bad, isn't it? It is
Oh, those
bad.
are the positive ones, Anne. I was
It-
trying to
no,
find
you're
them.
right.
I was
It's
trying to
bad.
find them.
It's so bad, isn't it? It's
Right.
just.
Let's do
Oh,
what Tal says. Let's manifest that it's going to be
Oh,
a decent result.
If it happens, it's all on me, guys. I've manifested that into existence.
I need the positivity, Tao. I need it, Bill. Come on, give it to me, man. Give it to me.
Or
That's
as lucky though with Blue, he just gets away and goes to Italy or to Kazakhstan or to like Turkey. Suddenly, it's back on tour for a month. I tell you.
Yeah, I'm gone. Yeah,
I'm gone.
Can I come on tour? Do you need us? Can I be a supporter?
Yeah.
Can I come on tour?
Bill can come on tour with us.
Ant's got about 100,000 Spurs back.
My only chance of getting into Europe next season is going on tour with Blue.
That's what makes me laugh. On Friday, depending on how this week goes, there's going to be Blues next game. There's going to be 100,000 Spurs fans as backing vocals just getting out of the country because of what can happen this week. Honestly. And we love you very much, mate. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon. Tao, we'll see you very soon. Thank you so much. Tao will be back on before the end of the season from what this season holds. And Bill will be here, unfortunately, for his own sins of what's going to come.
Bless him. What he's doing. Fantastic work, Bill. Fantastic work, mate.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
Talia, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. And sorry, guys, for the pessimism, but this is real life, right? It's how we all feel. But let's hope for bigger and better things.
No, can I just ask? Yeah, Ant's next game will be in Frankfurt. It probably is, mate.
I'll be all right to go back there.
Frankfurt Airport's awful.
I will never forget Talia when we lost to Arsenal, and you think I lose my shit. She lost her shit. Matt Doherty. Just you got to say them two names, and
you know what?
He beat us on. He beat us at the weekend as well, didn't he?
I
know. He had an absolute blinder. He was like Cafu from Brazil, like prime Cafu.
No,
I tell you, these players, they've got to perform on Thursday. I just think now you're at a point. Forget what's happening with the manager. Go out there and give it their all for the supporters. You know, we've had a really difficult. How many years, I don't know, but we've got to see if we can go through. Have to. I want to say a massive thank you to this wonderful panel, to the wonderful Antony Costa. Love you too, mate. We'll be in touch as always. Tal, thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Bill, we'll see you soon. Don't look too scared, everybody. That's it. Look, it all does come down to this. Ange Postecoglou told us he always wins a trophy in his second season. Will he see Spurs steer themselves through to a semi-final, which will be set up against either Bodo Glimt or Lazio in that second leg? In that semi-final. It all comes down to this. From our wonderful panel here to our wonderful watching audience, thanks so much for your support. We have been the last one on Spurs. Please keep safe, keep well, and as always, come